So, hello, welcome back to another stream, another day and another stream. I'm actually pretty happy to be back here again in a very tidied up flat. I do love that, and I mean that is a reason probably why Jordan Peterson in his book, well, I guess, did he say it in his books? I'm actually not quite sure, but in some interviews he's often referring to, well, not often, but sometimes referring to tidying up your room, tidying up your flat, tidying up your living space for the sake of, I would actually say, psychological development or human development, kind of something like that. But speaking of Jordan Peterson, as I remember, Jordan Peterson, Beyond Order. We haven't gone through it yet completely. So we're going to do so, because I think that as controversial Peterson is as a person, is in terms of the things that he does, the things that he doesn't, his thoughts are rather amazing, I'd say, and also interesting to know about and interesting to see and well, period. So let us have a look. Let us have a look at what we are able to find here. Let's actually do it like this and like that and the other thing. So this is something we went through. Maybe no. Maybe no. How should you act? It's just how should you survive? Look into the distant past, far down the evolutionary chain, right to the basics. Play with other depends upon the collective establishment of a shared goal with the child's play partner. Games undertaken voluntarily will outcompete games imposed and played under threat of force, given that some of the energy that could be expended on the game itself, whatever its nature, has to be wasted on enforcement. Totally the case. Universal constraints reduce, I'm actually not quite sure, social value. No currency has a value that exceeds a children else. To name something is not only to make it shine forth. Well, let's actually go from the very bottom to the very top, starting with probably one of the biggest and or longest paragraphs there is. Much of what people believe politically is based on their inborn temperament. Liberals, for example, are positively enthralled by new ideas. The advantages to being attracted by new ideas are obvious. Sometimes problems require new solutions, and it is people who take pleasure in novel conceptions who find them. Such people also tend not to be particularly orderly. Perhaps this is because if you are gripped and driven by new ideas and are also inclined to test or implement them, you need to be able to tolerate the intermediary chaos produced between the time the old idea disintegrates and the new idea that takes control. If you are a conservative, you have the opposite advantage and problem. You are wary of new ideas and not particularly attracted to them. That is in part because you're less sensitive to their possibilities and more concerned about their unpredicted consequences. Just because a new idea fixes one problem after all doesn't mean that it will fail to generate another or several others. If you're a conservative, you'll like things to be where they are supposed to be when they are supposed to be there. You are in a place you want to be when people act conventionally, responsible and predictably. Conservatives are necessary for maintaining things the way they are when everything is working and change might be dangerous. Liberals, by contrast, are necessary for changing things when they are no longer working. Which is very interesting because Jordan Peterson often states that he is conservative. Which is pretty interesting, I'd say, when you are working in a space of science. Science often meaning change, quite, things change, studies say this, then they say that, and after a few years everything is completely different, which is great, which is good, which is amazing, because we're seeing new things, we're just able to generate new information that helps us solve puzzles and problems that we have not been able to solve before, period. On the other hand, I do also understand being conservative. Like, everything should stay the same. I do want to conserve things as they are. Makes sense to me. It really does. Also one of the reasons why there is, I do hope that there is also the English term conserving nostalgia, which is, which is not a part of nostalgia, but a type of nostalgia that means that you're trying to keep things as they are, which is not always good, or things as they were. But yeah. She became tougher, harder, harsher, adjectives that are not always meant as compliments, but are sometimes the precise antidote to too much sentimentality, which is dangerously infantilizing. Romance is play, and play requires peace, and peace requires negotiation. Daily routines are vital. You wake up together, perhaps you eat together, you do some such things every day. Maybe waking up, preparing for the day, and eating make up 5 hours a day. That is a third of your waking time, and therefore a third of your life. It is 35 hours every 7 days, a whole work week, an entire career. Get it right. Ask yourself and each other, how do we want these things or these times to be structured? Come to a negotiation solution about every responsibility and opportunity you share as a couple, and about every obstacle you encounter. This is very important. Especially just talking about that. You being like, well, let's change things up, let's do things like that. Then if the other person says like, okay, but I do want to do this, I do want to do that, because it is important for me, then okay, yes, let's do that as well. Let's just work together. Let's just let's make sure that we are both living the life that we want to live. We are having the life that we want to have. We are working on the things we want to work at. Talk to your partner for about 90 minutes a week, purely about practical and personal matters. What is going on as far as you're concerned with the kids? What needs to be done around the house? Is there anything bothering you that we can address? If you dip below 90 minutes a week, you generate a backlog and your mutual story begins to unwind. Because it is a mutual story, as amazing a partnership can be, and as vital it can also be for feeling vital and feeling good about yourself and having a great life. It is work, One has to do certain things, and some things have to be done, period. This is what it is, and it is good as it is. And also do so. If you are in a partnership, talk, negotiate, quote unquote, negotiate, do things, make everything that's the partnership is working fine and is good for the long haul. I do understand as well being in a relationship or getting into a relationship that it's not going to last for long just because of pleasure and this, that, and the other thing. And if this is the case, well, just give a shit about it, unless you believe that there is a possibility of it being a long-term thing. But this just totally is for long-term relationships, or relationships that are meant to be long-term relationships. Traditional roles are far more helpful than modern people tend to realize. To set up a household in peace, you have to determine who is going to do what. 200 things, perhaps, to run a household properly. I understand it. A radically successful life. You could have a marriage that works. You could make it work. That is an achievement, a tangible, challenging, exceptional, and unlikely achievement. There are not many genuine achievements of that magnitude in life. A solid and reliable, honest and playful home into which you could dare bring children. To live a full life, marriage and children or grandchildren, and all the trouble and heartbreak that accompanies all of that is far more than half of life. Aim for peace as if your soul depends upon it. In every way of life and in every aspect of life. peace makes sense. You know, why choosing confrontations? The problem then is long-term peace or short-term peace. What is peace? What is your definition of peace? Like, if I'm saying something to somebody that I know this person does not want to hear, but I know it's going to be good for this person for the long haul, should I still say it? Or shouldn't I? Is it about the long term or is it about the short term? It takes a very detrimental interlocutor to avoid the insult and hurt generated by anger, defense 1, and the pity and compassion evoked by tears, defense 2. It requires someone who has integrated their shadow, their stubbornness, harshness, and capacity for necessary emotionless implacability and can use it for long-term benefit. Perhaps you ask your partner what he or she wants. I don't know means not only go away and leave me alone, it also frequently means why don't you go away, do all the work necessary to figure out what is wrong and come back and tell me if you're so smart. Perhaps you ask your partner what he or she wants. You're not going to get along with your partner, not easily, unless you agree to be tyrannized and silent, and even then you will take your revenge because you are a different person. Because you are different people. No one just simply gets along precisely because of that. If you have an escape route, there will not be enough heat generated in the jam you find yourself jointly trapped in to catalyze the change necessary in both of you. The maturation and the development of wisdom, because maturation and the development of wisdom require a certain degree of suffering, and suffering is escapable as long as there is an out. And yeah, with that being said, I do hope that through these words I've been able to spark some willingness to go ahead and utilize your abilities, and therefore maybe also utilize the relationship that you're having at bay or at hand to create an even better one that works even better. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna see you the next time. Wish you the best. See you soon. Bye bye.